Hi everyone, this is John and Jackie with Collect Clubs, and we're here with you today to bring you another one of our monthly webinars. Today we are so happy and excited to have with us a producer and director of porn. His name is Dali Michaels. He's going to help us answer some questions on how to make great porn at home. How are you, Dali? Welcome.
All right, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. How you guys doing?
We're doing great, thanks.
Doing
Good,
good.
good. All right. Well, you guys want to go ahead and jump in?
Yes, we'd love to.
All right. Well, this is obviously something I've always been very passionate about. I love the whole process of filming and getting good, hot, great sex on camera, and that sounds easier than it actually is. Over the last couple of years, there's been such advancements in technology and the ability for everybody to really do this that, I keep getting questions all the time, and I know that you had mentioned that you guys do too, of, how do you get something that looks a little bit better than what we usually get? Most people are pretty disappointed after they have this, like, great sex session and they go to watch it, and it's still cool because they're seeing themselves, but it doesn't usually look as good as what we were expecting. I mean, do you guys ever film? Do you have experience filming yourselves at all?
We have in the past, and you're right. Whenever we end up watching it, we're either not conscious of the background, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
notice something afterwards, or the lighting, or the way we're positioned. You know, you always think it's going to look much hotter than it does, and then you look at it, you really start to critique, like, why am I positioned that way, or I don't like that angle.
Sure.
And like you said, with the lighting and everything. So I'm really excited to hear about how to do this.
Okay, good. Well, I can tell you a lot of horror stories. I will tell you this as an opener. The worst one that I've ever seen. There was a couple. They were actually auditioning for some adult film work, and they were filming themselves one camera, which is what most of us have. No lights, anything. So they spent all this time just trying to set it up, and they were having just this absolute bang out, awesome sex session. And when they sat down to watch it, their cat had come in over the top of them on their headboard and was using the bathroom in the background while they were having sex. And I wish I had that, or I would have opened this up with it. But yeah, so I don't think any of us have done anything that awful, but we can definitely get a lot better. So the overview for this, we're going to lay down some basic groundwork. We're going to talk about story and scripting, setting, lighting, which is extremely important, filming, acting, which I use that term very carefully, recording sound, and then obviously the editing, music, and titles, and then how do you publish or share this if you actually choose to. So let's just lay some basic groundwork. The biggest issue that I run into with most people is setting the right expectations. When we shoot adult content, I mean, we're hiring professional crews, we have professional lights, there's a lot of money, and sometimes we forget that because even with the most basic adult films, you're looking at it, there's a lot of lights, there's 2 or 3 cameras at least, and most of us don't have that. So even though I'm going to help you create some better videos at home, it's still not going to be like professional grade, and you should just expect that. The other issue is if you're not looking through the camera, Jackie, like what you were saying, hopefully if your sex is good enough to be filming, you're moving around, you're not in one static position the whole time, and unless
Right.
you've got camera operators, there's going to be some shots that are good, and then there's going to be whole other shots that are just they're not good or they're not flattering. So one of the things I normally encourage people to do is not think about shooting one sex session and having this great tape, but shooting several and then taking the best of from each ones and editing those together. That's when you'll get like a really, I mean, pardon the term, but you'll get a really good, badass home porno. you know, um, because
That's a
the
great idea.
yeah, I mean, there's no way. I mean, if you guys are in doggy style and that looks great, when you move to another position, it's not going to work. So just expect to have to shoot 2 or 3 sex sessions, which I know is a horrible thing that you have to have more sex on camera. So um, The other issue, and I know John and Jackie, knowing you guys, I know this is a big issue for you with everything that you are about and that you guys also teach, is communication. I can never stress this enough that you need to have been talking about this for a period of time with your partner. This isn't something you want to just like have a studio set up and they come home from work, on a long day, and you're like, yeah, we're shooting a porno.
Mm.
Um, you want to know when you're going to do it. You want to set it up and work towards it, just kind of so you have that anticipation. Um, and if somebody's not into it, I can promise you it will never ever look good or go well. Because if somebody feels like they're being manipulated or forced into doing something like this, it comes across. It just looks bad, you know. Um, so communication and making sure you're on the same page is definitely a major part of this. And then there's the planning. From a planning standpoint, this isn't typically something that you want to go, what would be hot is let's just film it. You can do that, and you can set a camera up, and you'll definitely get some great stuff. One of the great things you can do, if you want to be impromptu, then holding a camera while you guys are having sex is always a good way to do that. But setting a camera up, in a wide shot at the end of your bed or in your living room, impromptu rarely gives you anything good. And so you typically need to plan it. Start talking about it this Saturday night after we come back from the club, or whatever your situation is going to be. You need to know that you're going to do it and prepare for it. And then, in a reviewing sense, that this is something a lot of people don't like doing, but sitting down and watching, you'll get better at this over time. I mean, if it's like it is with my wife, or with, like, I know it is with you guys, this is something that's fun. It's not work. And so you film one session, you come back, you watch it together, there's always giggling and laughing, and then there's like, oh, damn, that was hot, and those oh damn that's hot moments, that's the stuff that you want to do again in the next one.
Well, and I think too, I'm just going to jump in, I know from
Yeah.
personal experience, is getting over seeing yourself on film.
Yeah. Well, and that's true for men and women. I mean, I hear that from professionals, to where the first time they see themselves really on camera, they're just, typically most of us aren't like, man, I look awesome. So yeah, there takes some time to get used to that. And what's interesting is, even professional adult film stars, most of them refuse to watch until it's been edited, color corrected, and there's music. Watching yourself just going at it and having sex, like, guys a lot of times will enjoy that, but women, if there's not the setup and the music and the setting, all they're seeing are those things that that are glaring to them that nobody else notices usually, but it's driving them crazy. I've worked with an actress before who just, out of her whole body, which was amazing, she could not stand her arms, and no matter what she was doing, how many people she was doing it with, all she could see was what she thought was flabby arms. So yeah, you're definitely right on, Jackie. Everyone's going to see that, and that's part of just kind of getting used to reviewing and watching. And then another thing that you can do is, if there is a certain thing that you don't like about your body, reviewing, knowing you're going to film more, and that's something I meant to say in planning. You should always just, if you're communicating, you should always just accept that you're going to do like 2 or 3 sessions. Because if you just do one session, somebody's going to wind up being disappointed. Right. So if you watch the first one, you're like, well, it's okay, it's almost like a rehearsal. And then you go, well, I really don't like the way my arms look here, or I really don't like the way my stomach looks. And these are things I hear on a daily basis. Fortunately, there are so many different positions and ways to shoot. You can shoot around those, quote, troubled areas. But you'll never know that if you don't review it and don't watch it. So I can't stress enough the reviewing. If this is something you really want to do, you really need to sit down together, review it, and obviously be complimentary and kind and loving and supporting to each other. Right. And then personal prep. People always laugh when I say this, but you'd be amazed how many people don't think about this. You know, you're going to be on camera. Camera will see things that you aren't seeing, especially if the session is worth filming. So, you know, if there's any kind of personal hygiene, personal prep, trimming, whatever you're into, make sure that you have prepared for it, because a camera will see it. And that is something that I've run into many times, where people are surprised that the camera could see that they hadn't, you know, shaved or trimmed, or, you know. And the one thing that'll come across on camera more than anything is if you're not tanned. And a lot of us aren't. This is personal home videos. You know, I mean, you guys know me. I'm Irish. I'm so white. I glow. And you put that in front of lights, I literally reflect light. And that's why I don't make home pornos anymore. They're very disturbing. So moving into story and script, I want to just move through this pretty quickly, because I think a lot of times people start off and they make this too complicated. I would encourage you to agree to filming 2 to 3 sessions and not worrying about story and script. I've listed this here because no matter how many times I say that, people still go, okay, but we want to know how to do it. When people are thinking about doing this, they're normally thinking about, you know, costumes and wardrobe and settings and locations, and you can get there. I mean, I have friends and people I work with, and they do it just for their own personal selves and maybe a few friends that they'll show, but they put money, like they actually save up a budget to do this. You can go as large and scale as you want, but you don't have to start there. And if you try starting there, you'll probably have a bad experience. So story and script, you know, do you need one? I don't think so. Is this gonzo? If you don't know what gonzo means, that means
What is gonzo?
Gonzo means from beginning to end, it's sex. There's no story. It's an actual type of porn. It just means down to business. So there's no knock at the door with the pizza guy. There's no secretary. It's just straight up sex from beginning to end. And that's what I encourage most people to do. Even though that sounds less fun and more hardcore, it will keep you from having to worry about lines and story and character. We can get into that. You know, I consider that an advanced stage. Just prepare that you're going to do 2 or 3 sessions where you turn the camera on, and then just forget the camera's there. And you guys go about your way, and maybe you're in one session, it's really more of a making love intimacy, and maybe the other one, it's the hanging out the chandeliers craziness. But I wouldn't really worry about story at first. That's why I keep it simple. You know, one of the biggest barriers to shooting is this right here, is people worrying about the story and the script, and they get into it, and, you know, this isn't Titanic. This is catching you guys being intimate and having fun on camera.
Okay, well, here's a question that I have. Speaking of like Titanic, are you wanting to keep these sessions within a time frame? Because I know the times that we've filmed ourselves, not to say that it's boring at certain parts, but there can be times you're like, good grief. I mean, how long is it? Do you want to try to film something within just a few minutes and then cut and then change up the angle and do it again? I mean,
that's a great question. For starting, I think it's best just to set up the camera and let it roll. Okay. And then, because you can fast forward, and plus at the end of this webinar, we're going to talk about easy ways to edit. You can edit out that stuff. You know, I mean, let's be honest. If there's a 20-minute, blowjob session, right, you can probably cut that down to about 30 to 60 seconds of something worth watching. So again, the way that I look at this is, let's get our feet wet by shooting 2 or 3, seeing what we like, what we don't like, and then editing those together, real basic. And then over time, you can add cameras. The one thing that I will say, and you mentioned this, I've noticed this really doesn't work, and that is doing something in a certain position and then stopping and going and adjusting cameras and going back. That'll kill it really fast. I mean, even if the guy manages to keep it up through all that, which is a problem, the intensity, it's not real.
Okay.
You don't want to be thinking about the camera. I mean, you really don't want your wife whispering to you while you're, having sex that, you need to move over for camera B. I mean, that
Right.
gets weird. so just let it roll for for the starters, and then we'll move you. And maybe what we'll do, John and Jackie, is maybe in a few months we'll do like an intermediate webinar of, okay, you guys have been doing this. Now, how do you start stepping up your game? How do you add more cameras and see what those cameras are like, and some basic story and script. But right now, the idea is for you to do it, to edit it, and be able to watch it and have fun. And if you choose to, share it with people.
Okay.
So consider the cost. That's another barrier, and there's really no reason for you to spend money filming yourself, not with the tools we have today, and we're going to talk about that. I mean, I've seen some great home films done from iPhones, where people just got tripods for their iPhones, and they were able to edit it in their phone. I mean, it's amazing. So just keep the cost. If it's going to cost you for these first 2 or 3, then do something different. And then the golden rule, I know that sounds awful, is kill it. And that means if you're sitting around and you and your partner or partners are waiting to film your first 2 or 3, whatever it's causing you to wait, we always just say just kill it. If it's oh, I want to lose 10 pounds, nah, don't wait for that, because you will first of all, you'll be more motivated to lose 10 pounds after you've filmed yourself. I promise you that.
Right.
Maybe you're waiting on a friend to come in town. Maybe you're waiting on a story or something like that. Any of those things that come up and we have to wait for this, just kill that thing and just start filming. Remember, you're going to do 2 to 3 of these. Get that
Well,
first one.
I know with me, what kept me from wanting to do it is I was just kind of embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I don't know if I want to see, they're going to see me. I would be watching this with them. And it was really nice for John to allow me to actually watch some of the recordings just by myself. So
Oh,
I could
nice.
kind of get used to seeing me, and then it became less fearful for him to see it too.
That's a great idea. I mean, I've never heard anyone doing that. You guys are so good at the communicating and the supporting, so that doesn't surprise me. But I think that's a great idea. A private viewing of your own work. Yeah. Okay, so let's move into the setting, and keeping this really simple. The setting, make an essential list of things that you're going to need. If you guys routinely use toys, then make a list and make sure you have them, and make sure they work, and make sure the batteries are current. I mean, just silly little things. That's really all you have to worry about from a prep standpoint. A lot of times people will ask me, well, we really want to go find this, the special sex toy, or like a Liberator, one of their ramps, or a sex swing. That's really what we want to film, but you don't have it yet. So just start with what you have access to. I promise you have a bed. I promise you have a couch. You probably have a backyard if you want to get adventurous. I'm always trying to get people just to start the process, because 90% of the time people really enjoy it, and it encourages them, and it becomes like a hobby. You can only be at the club typically on the weekends, or you can only do certain things at certain times. This becomes a really intimate hobby. So during the week, the friends I have that I've kind of helped coach through this, during the week they'll be talking to each other about, oh, you need to go buy this outfit, or we need to go, look at this. I found this on this, sex toy site, adamandeve.com or whatever it is. It becomes an ongoing thing. But start with considering what you already have access to. Now, I will say this. This is one of my personal favorite things. Some people have access to some really cool stuff, and they don't even think about it. There was one couple that they kept making videos in their bedroom, which is fine. But then one day while I was talking to them, they told me that they had access to this amazing lake house that sat on like 4 acres, completely private by itself. And they started showing me pictures, and it looked like something out of Mad Men. I mean, it was just still that late 60s era, John, kind of like what we were talking about the other day. And they had access to that all along and never thought about going there and filming. If you own your office, you can film at your office. So I don't mean just film in your bedroom. I just mean don't worry if you have to go out and find it or wait on it. Um, and then one of the best things you can do about setting is look for natural light. Most people like doing this stuff at nighttime, because they've been on a date or sometimes they've, been drinking, which I will talk about. Um, but it's actually better to film this stuff when the sun is up, because you can open windows and get so much better light and start noticing the professional adult films you watch. Most of them are shot during the daytime, you know.
True.
Yeah, when you see them and they're in these really nice mansions, typically like up in the hills in LA and that kind of a thing, it's always daytime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because to create that much supposedly natural light costs a fortune. And if they're doing it, we definitely should do it. So open windows or set up in a place where you get a lot of natural light. I didn't put this on here because it can be kind of controversial, but it is a reality for most people, and that is, a lot of people don't want to just come right in and go, all right, well, I'm going to go change and we're going to shoot a porno. I mean, a lot of professional adult actors and actresses don't even do that. They need time to kind of mentally get there, obviously physically get there. So I encourage people to know when they're going to do it, have the cameras already set up, and then go on a date. Go have a few drinks, go grab some sushi, go to a club, go do something, and that whole time you know that you're going to come back. That's a lot hotter than, hey, we're going to go home and do this. And so from a setting standpoint, I've yet to meet anybody for the first time that did this without having at least one or two drinks. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm just saying it's a lot easier if you'll go to a restaurant and then you're sitting there and you're flirting and you're excited and you're talking to each other about, I can't wait to get you home, and it becomes really sexy. And then you just walk in, you hit record, and you guys do your thing. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be having your wife standing there or your mate standing there and go over and be like, okay, I'm setting up the cameras, all right, move to your left, move to your right. That will kill it faster than anything, So that's why in your first one or two sessions, just leave the camera, and we'll talk about this in a minute. Leave the camera in kind of a wide angle and set it up, and then go on go have dinner. Nothing heavy, because nobody feels good after they've eaten a corny cheese dog, or a pizza. You're not going to want to come home and film porn. But salads and sushi and any kind of a vegan kind of a meal, obviously. And if you're into drinking, have a few cocktails and then come home and have a blast. And all you got to do is hit record. And music. People think that that's ridiculous, but I'm telling you, music helps. And they don't use music on professional sets for a lot of obvious reasons, but you can. And I encourage it. If you have a sexy playlist, which if you're willing to do this, you probably have like a sex playlist or something along those lines. You need to have that queued up, listening to it on the way home, walk in, and then you guys are really just walking onto a hot set. A hot set is an industry term, meaning it's ready to film, but in this case, it's a hot set, where you're ready to have some good sex and catch it on camera. So don't overlook those things. All right, let's get into the actual, functionality of it. Acting, moans, yells, and realism. Yeah, I've seen a lot of adult films. I mean, a lot of them. And whether they're ones I've been filming or they're recreational or they're friends. And for whatever reason, people tend to really overkill it on the moans and yells. And unless you've communicated with your mate or your partner and that's something like they're really into, I mean, that is a bit of a fetish turn on for some people. Just keep it real. We're not asking you to fake an orgasm. We're not asking you to do anything. We're asking you to capture what you guys do. So if you aren't normally moaning like crazy and screaming and yelling, this is not the time to do it, because it'll freak your partner out, and it comes across really fake and really, really cheesy. Jackie, was it you that was talking the other day about when we were talking about some of the porn that we've seen where the people are just like screaming and yelling, and it disconnects you from the scene? Was that you?
Well, I know that we have talked about that in the past, and it's interesting that you bring that up because as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about the videos that John and I have shot, and it goes back to this is something that you get to do as a couple, and because you get to see your significant other, when you're engaging in sex with your partner, you get to see them. You don't get to see yourself. And so, like you said, to be yourself on camera, to be able to watch that and see this is really how I am during sex can be pretty liberating. And
Yeah.
it gives you an opportunity to see really what you do, what you enjoy, the facial expressions that you make, and if you can look at those, from an objective standpoint, it can really be enlightening.
Yeah. Well, and that is what you're gonna love is I can tell you from a man's perspective, being able to at any time to be able to watch my mate and my partner, the person that turns me on more than anybody, to be able to see them. I mean, that's awesome.